All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening, and welcome to Retake League of Legends edition brought to you by EGF Media. Tonight we'll take a look at this past week in the LCS, what happened in Fantasy, and predictions for IEM Katowice, which is upcoming this weekend. There will be no LCS, but we will get into that a little bit later. I'd like to welcome our guests tonight, Alex Shinkari Erdenberger and Owen Airship Bishop Kruger. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing real well, Jared. Thanks.
I'm doing just fine.
All right, we will jump right into the news this week. And one of the biggest news stories was Forgiven, H2K's AD carry. He unfortunately has received military duty from his home country of Greece, so he will have to leave the LCS. And that is just a shame because he has really been on fire and on point lately. In other news, earlier today, Giants announced that Adam, Batong Jaka, and Audrey, the top laner, jungler, and their AD carry, are gone. And they will be replaced by ex-Dignitas top laner, Smitty J, and two new players, Wisdom and Sonstar, who we haven't really seen a whole lot of, so I am excited to see how they do. They've been struggling, so we will have to see in the last 2 weeks whether or not Giants pick it up. And patch 6.4 came out last week, and with some of the changes, we will talk a little bit about that. Alex, what did you notice about 6.4?
Okay, so 6.4 has a great new mastery that I really wanted to touch on, and it is in the ferocity tree. I'm a little bit unprepared, excuse me. It's called Expose Weakness, and it says damaging enemy champions causes them to take 3% increased damage from your allies. Now, some people kind of say like, oh, maybe supports will take this, may still take this, but you know, a lot of offensive support. It's very hard to get that type of thing for supports, that mastery, because you need to go into the ferocity tree, which means you might need to give up some defensive capabilities, which you kind of need for the bot lane, considering that you need to tank, you know, harass from 2 characters as opposed to 1. You either need to give up that or biscuits, which is also kind of bad because most of the time you're throwing around spells and such, and you need that type of mana regeneration, as well as the potions lasting a little longer, which means you'll heal a little bit longer. But this is also incredibly good for AD carries in the bottom lane with their duo lane and junglers, because this can be in contention with the double-edged sword or the feast, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Whenever you kill a unit, you gain a certain amount of health.
I think it's like 20.
Yeah, but this is so good because you can put it on a character that can either very easily poke and harass an enemy champion and then have follow-up from their ranged support, or put it on someone like Callista, who has a passive that already increases the damage that your ally does to an enemy champion, so you get a lot of incidental damage at level 1. This is also very good with junglers who gank lanes very often, meaning that they can go into the lane, deal a little bit of damage, and have lanes that normally wouldn't have kill pressure early on, more kill pressure. At 3% damage can definitely work earlier on, as well as provide a lot more synergy a lot more damage for the late game.
Yeah, I imagine we'll be seeing that out of like Malphite team comps. So like the top lane Malphite will take it, ult 3 or 4 people, and now everybody else that can follow up will, and all that burst damage will hurt them a lot.
Yep.
Oh, did you see anything that you liked specifically out of 6.4?
There are a lot of changes to the top lane meta and the jungle meta. So we saw Runic Echoes got nerfed a bit, and I don't think that's really a huge nerf. I mean, you lost 3% movement speed, whatever. Udyr got tapped a bit, but his win rate hasn't really changed in solo queue, so maybe it'll affect him as far as competitive play is concerned with CLG picking him. Pub plays, probably not going to do much. And Tom Kench got tapped a bit, but they're going to have to do a lot more to, bench him.
Yeah.
We see a really important change here as far as high-level play, especially in Korea. Titanic Hydra and Ravenous Hydra cannot be side-graded back and forth.
Yeah.
Something we saw a lot in LCK was top lane Fioras taking a Titanic Hydra first for the early game kind of tank stats, split pushing aggressively, and then swapping it back and forth based on what he needed at that specific moment. That's gone. I don't really know why they changed that, but maybe they just didn't see it being used like they thought it would, and whatever. Now, Warlord's Bloodlust is hopefully useful now. I believe the actual title of the patch notes was something along the lines of Warlord's Bloodlust is actually good. Um,
Getting that extra lifesteal back for
yeah, when you're on low health, you'll get bonus lifesteal. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. I was thinking like, oh, you'll take it on Yi, you'll take it on Olaf, but Führer is pretty good on those champions. So I don't really know what type of champions would want that lifesteal as opposed to bonus damage, especially considering bonus lifesteal when you're low might be coming in too late to actually help you survive. Especially with the Sterix Gauge nerf, I was thinking it might be especially useful in combination with Sterix Gauge or a Maw of Malmortius, those things that give you buffs when you're low on health. So you can kind of combine those to fight, like maybe a Tryndamere can take it. But again, if the effect is strong enough to be actually worth it, we're going to have to wait to find out.
Yeah. So I heard you mention CLG earlier, so let's go right into the games this week for our LCS breakdown. We all know what we're talking about. CLG's 2 games. Alex,
Hype.
why don't you start us off?
Hype. Oh my gosh, I'm so hyped. So I'm not a CLG fan, but this game of Immortals versus CLG was so good. There were like a lot of very sloppy plays throughout. Like there were like some times where Aframu would just get a little too aggressive, or Stixay would get a little too aggressive and they'd just die out of nowhere. Like I remember like him like going over a wall into like turret range trying to get a kill, but the guy was already dead, so he just tanks 2 turret shots and like a Q from Lucian for nothing. And there were like a bunch of other really sloppy stuff, but it came together kind of at the end. I really like the pressure that Darshan put on the map, as well as Xmithy with his ZZ Rot portal, which I am very happy is finally being played in competitive, because that thing has been sitting in the shop for like 2 seasons, and everyone's no, don't build that crap. Like you built it in Earth because you could place 3 in a lane, and you bought Banner of Command too because you could banner up the entire way by the time you got to the. Yeah, but like that was like the only real use for it. It was other than like a troll item at best, but like the amount of pressure that CLG put on the map was absolutely astounding, and that Baron steal at the end which led into their win was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
great play.
What are your thoughts on Immortals? Do you think that this loss sort of showed a chink in the armor? Do you think that now maybe other teams might try and figure out where they went wrong and try to expose any weaknesses that Immortals have? Or do you think that CLG just got kind of lucky, played to their strengths more so than Immortals did?
I don't think lucky is the correct word to use.
Yeah,
I do think that. Yeah, I think CLG played to their strengths very well. I think that one of the big reasons that they were able to finish out that game is because Darshan was just constantly split pushing, just constantly. He sat on his teleport, and unless he absolutely needed to go in, he would teleport in. But other than that, he was just sitting bot lane for the entire game. And there were times where they were 5v4, like Immortals would make the right call. No, the correct call is, okay, go for Baron now. We have killed one person. Like, they might have found a kill onto Aframu or Stixay, and they'd be like, okay, they have one person down, one person in bottom. Let's take Baron. And, 1 out of the 3 times they got it, Every possible occurrence that could happen with Baron when you start it happened that game. The first Baron they go in, they're like, okay, Darshan's bot, we found a kill, Baron. And like, okay, Darshan's pushing a lot harder than we thought. Huni backed, but he's, getting his crap kicked in because he was bullied all game. And so we need to back off.
Get a QSS against an 80 champion.
Yeah, Jesus. That's the worst. Yeah. That is the worst.
I think one of the interesting things that came out of that Immortals game was CLG opting for the, I heard it called the Australian lanes. So you have your duo lane in the top lane, and your other single lane is the bot lane. And I really liked that idea because since CLG were on the red side, they had that tribe rush. So whenever Darshan could get the wave to bounce, which we saw in both games, you just see Smithy walk down, bear slap somebody, and that, I think, gave CLG a lot of their early advantage. Owen, how about we talk about CLG versus Cloud9? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. It was super back and forth. Cloud9 took a definitive lead early, and then CLG started evening it back with a couple good team fights based off of Xmithy and Darshan's split abilities. And then there was a ton of team fights moving into the late game around Baron or Tier 2 towers and inhibs, where you just saw CLG won a team fight, and then Cloud9 won a team fight, and then CLG won a team fight, just back and forth and back and forth. So every fight, as a viewer, I had no idea what was going to happen. Like, you can look at each of those fights, and if you didn't know the outcome, like, you had no idea who was going to win. Rather than one of those games where you just kind of like, oh, one team gets ahead, they win 3 fights in a row and end it. We saw a great performance out of Sneaky. Even though he did end up losing, he did really well, and he probably would have ended the game with a pentakill off that triple had he not lost his Nexus. We saw a lot of Xmithy Phoenix Udyr. It was too hot to handle. And CLG managed to squeak out that win, especially surprising considering the early game. At one point, if I'm not mistaken, Cloud9 had a significant gold lead. I think it was 5,000 or 6,000 gold. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember exactly. But they had a huge gold lead, and it looked like it was just going to be, Cloud9 got ahead and won. But CLG just, boom, that Udyr split push, Darshan's split ability. I mean, you saw late game, Cloud9 needed to pull Jensen mid lane to go bot with balls to 2v Darshan. It was just so many resources committed just to stop one person from splitting. And sometimes it didn't even end up killing him, or it ended up being a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah.
So
I think most of the time he got balls. I think one of the more interesting things out of that game was Cloud9, I think, made a very big mistake. Well, 2 very big mistakes. The first one was actually in the big man phase. They left Afromu's Bard up, which was one of the most impactful parts of CLG's game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
He, what was it, 2 or 3 minutes in, was zoning out Stixay and Afro, or not Stixay and Afro, Sneaky and High, just under the tower. And the second they would walk up, he would hit them with the Cosmic Binding, catch a minion, and it was just amazing play out of Afro. The other big thing, the other big mistake that I think Cloud9 made was their almost last team fight where High ultied and dove the mid lane inhibitor tower. And then Afromu, again, making the big Bard play, just leaving High alone. They killed him. They got the rest of Cloud9. And I think that was one of the big things that really turned out the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree for sure. High was definitely kind of the cornerstone of their team comp on that Alistar, with the ult just being a tanky presence in the middle of the fight. You can't focus him and you can't ignore him. Bard kind of outplaying him there really impacted CLG's win.
All right, let's go over EU real quick. Owen, what was your European pick?
I liked Rocket. So they managed to pull out a win against Unicorns of Love off Betsy's tanky DPS assassin ranged AP 80 carry Corki. It was a really good showing from Betsy. They haven't really done Rockets had struggles. Like, they haven't been doing super well. I mean, they haven't been doing terrible. They're just another mid-tier EU team. And it showed a lot of power out of that Corki. It was really impressive. And I think this will be one of the defining moments as far as Riot's concerned. Like, okay, they've kind of they haven't left Corki alone, right? He got tapped a bit as far as last patch was concerned, but he's still good. And this is definitely going to be some fodder for Riot's nerf cannon. Corki needs to get wrecked. He's just, I don't even know, like, you go Sterix Gauge and Triforce and just kind of,
yeah, I think
it's so much damage. It's just damage everywhere.
The nerf that probably needs to happen is somewhere with the package, where they maybe take down the damage, the dot on when you use the package. Yeah,
late game that thing isn't, like, we always joked because of, I think it was the dank meme around double lifts Rumble ult, was it? But now it really is a Rumble ult. It's better than a Rumble ult late game. And he also gets a second jump afterwards. Yeah. Now, you've seen some teams mess it up. I mean, it's one of those abilities where if you screw it up, all of a sudden you're out of position and you die. But I think its potential for playmaking is really, really misproportioned to the role. I mean, CC-less mid laners or 80 carries usually aren't the type to completely change a team fight with an ability like that. So it doesn't really make sense to have the package there at all, but we definitely need to see that toned down, at least late game.
Yeah, Alex, what was your... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I want to just comment on Corki real quick, and then I'll talk about my Vitality versus Elements game.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think a very meaningful way to nerf it is to take away the fact that you can double jump
Yeah.
essentially, and then also increase the cooldown in which you get it. That way, when you pick it up, you are now have to decide more meaningfully how you want to use the ultimate, as opposed to just like, oh, I'll just go this way and then I'll go that way and I'll be out of range of everyone else to be able to rocket people and be able to place a rumble ultimate in their team. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But Vitality versus Elements is my game for this week. I specifically picked Vitality. I'll get into them a little later, but I am still convinced that they are the best team in EU. They are doing a very, very good job. They are 11-3. They're tied for first place with H2K and G2. And they do a very, very good job. Here's another game that is just another example of Corki needing to be nerfed as Hjarnan goes 4-0-5 and has 435 CS. Like,
That Corki.
he farms real well. He team fights real well. He has very good scaling. He has solid early game. So well, I don't want to say solid early game. He's a shady early game. Like Thunderlord's Decree is also
Yeah,
is
hang
a good
on.
way to
Hey, what's up, man?
alleviate
We're just doing fire
the
hazards,
early
so
game.
just extension cords, anything like that. Do you have any of that?
H2K versus Elements, so you should go check
Everything's
out
power
the
strips
game.
or...
Yeah, I just have a power strip for my
Vitality.
Alright, man,
doing a
sounds
job.
good. Have a good night. Good night.
Alright, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. Owen, I think he'll be back in a moment. So,
Yeah.
Alex and I will just jump into the teams of the week.
Yep.
Oh, alright, there you are.
Apologies, I'm back. All right.
Okay.
Dorm life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
hashtag
technical
dorm life.
difficulties. Alright, so
Let's
top,
go out and tweet that.
Yeah.
After you tweet.
so
Tweet at official EGF. Hashtag dorm life.
yeah,
Also follow our Twitter.
yeah.
Nice plug, by the way.
Like us
Thank
on
you.
Facebook.
Alright, so let's go on to the top of the teams. In Europe, we see Gamers2, H2K, and Vitality leading the table at 11-3 with Unicorns at 9-5. And in NA, we have Immortals at 13-1. They have finally lost their first game, no longer undefeated, by the second place team, CLG at 10-4. Cloud9 sit at 9-5. TSM sit at 8-6. Second, third, and fourth are one game out. So these last 4 games coming up in the next upcoming weeks are definitely going to be important. So Alex, who is your team of the week?
My team of the week is Vitality. They are still mostly because we harped a little too much on the CLG train. I don't want to continue that. I want to focus on some other people. But Vitality has been doing very well. They had a very solid week, going 2-0 again, and they continue to show why they are the best team in EU. They lost very few games, and the only couple games they lost were flukes or or to a top team. So
Yeah.
Alright, Owen, who's your top team of the week?
I know we already talked about it a lot, but CLG definitely deserves this. They had that Udyr split pushing, Darshan doing Darshan things, Stixay with beautiful Ezreal play, exciting duding from Afro's Bard. We had mid lane dominance with that LeBlanc, and gates are real. So CLG just adopting this crazy strategy. Like, okay, they've been known to be more, split pushy, but just using it to the nth degree and kind of taking it to the next level, which CLG has been known to do, is kind of take a strategy and just run with it. There's no hesitation there. They look really strong for the rest of the season. If other NA teams can't adapt to this, I'm kind of worried about going into IEM though, because that playstyle might not necessarily translate well on the international stage, especially when you're going up against really strong Asian teams who typically play, at least in Korea, a bit more reserved and objective tradey. They're kind of used to this. The split push is kind of the name of the game there. And CLG hasn't been able to practice it against other teams that do use that strategy. They've just kind of been on their own in NA. But I was really impressed with the way that they were able to pick up that strategy and make it work, especially in a region like NA, which is extremely volatile.
Alright, so now let's talk about the bottom of the teams. In EU, Giants are holding last at 2-12. Rockhat 1 game ahead, 3-11. Splice 1 game ahead, 4-10. much like the top of the table, one game really will make the difference. And North America Renegades picked up their second win last week against the now 9th place team, Dignitas. That was a very exciting game. And then up above them are Echo Fox and Team Impulse sitting at 5 and 9. Alex, who was your bottom team?
So my bottom team of the week is Dignitas. They lost both of their games this week, and they've been starting to falter more and more and more, and now they're moving their way towards the bottom. And we might see like a legacy team, like a team that's been around since season 1, have to work their way up through the Challenger Series, and that's kind of scary. I mean, this is also pretty huge because they came off of a win against TSM, the 4th place team, and the team that is just like so great on paper, and they just dropped the ball this week. I have no idea what's going on, but this is definitely going to hurt them in the long run by a lot. They only have a couple weeks left. I don't even know if they can get out of relegations at this point. Excuse me.
All right, Owen, who's your bottom team?
I'm gonna have to go with Echo Fox this week. The my mic is muted. Apologies, my mic was muted. There were people being loud. It's okay.
Yeah.
Echo Fox kind of tripped up this week. The Quick Brown Fox did not jump over the Lazy Dog. 4-game win streak they were coming off of, and then they just kind of lost. I mean, I wasn't really expecting a win against Immortals, and TSM is definitely a disadvantage game, but they could have probably pulled one out against them. The break for IEM is giving them an advantage, however. That's important to note because they're going back into Week 8, and they're going up against Dignitas, which should be a win for them, and CLG, which is going to be really tough, especially considering what we've seen CLG do. However, CLG is going to be spending their time preparing for IEM and, traveling to Europe, whereas Echo Fox has a whole extra week to just sit down with their coaches and analysts and be like, okay, how do we beat CLG?
Yeah.
Whereas CLG's like trying to fight Koreans and Chinese people over in Europe. Like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah,
There's such strong regions.
Echo Fox could always try to scrim like Cloud9. They're going to be here. Play Cloud9, play Immortals, like try and pick up what CLG was figuring out, and then try and, I guess, outthink them. And
they definitely have an opportunity here.
It was a good idea mentioning IEM because that is actually coming up. That's starting on Friday. I will give you guys the full schedule in a few minutes. So IEM's coming up, 8 teams, 3 days, 4 different regions. Who is your team for IEM this upcoming weekend, Alex?
So my team to watch for IEM is definitely CLG. I don't think that they're going to make it to the finals, but I think they're going to have a rather impressive run. Their round 1 matchup is against SKT T1. So this is Bengi, this is Faker, this is Scout, this is all this really strong team that everyone's like, oh no, SKT, the world champions. But this is. I don't know if we'll see the same showing from SKT as we did at the World Championships because they have been faltering a lot in LCK right now. They're 5th in the league right now, and they've been having a lot of problems. Will that translate into a win for CLG? Maybe. I'm just saying that that CLG has had a strong showing recently in the LCS. They are 2nd place, and SKT has been faltering, so this might be a win for CLG. It might not, but there's still more of a chance now than there was before. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Who's your pick for IEM?
Okay, I think it's kind of a toss-up here between Kwagao and Royal Never Give Up. Xiaogu. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Okay, I should have probably looked that up.
No, it's fine. The only reason I know that is because I'm up at like weird hours and I just watch.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, okay.
I'm a Korean fanboy. I don't watch China. China's a good region though. They stole all the great Korean players with massive salaries. Anyways, so if I'm not mistaken, LPL is weird because they have 2 groups. So these teams don't actually face each other during the normal season.
Yeah.
So both of them have really loaded rosters. They have really strong players from China and Korea, and they have really dedicated, really well-funded support staff. China's probably the biggest region as far as money is concerned. So that's going to, even if you don't have, some kind of crazy like Cloud9, like, oh, we have high, you have enough money to really fund great training and coaching and analysts and players from other regions where they can just say, oh yeah, we're going to drop $800,000 on a Korean mid laner. Like they can just do that, whereas an NA team can't. And I think it's really important to keep an eye on these teams because they're also the top of their groups. What we're seeing in NA is we have like the number 2 and the number 4 team, and then Korea we have a challenger team who's not even in the LCK, and then we have SKT T1, who's traditionally a really strong team, but hasn't really been doing too hot this season. So it's going to probably pan out as far as the finals are concerned with China versus China, as far as my predictions are concerned.
All right.
And not to mention 5th and 6th place Fnatic and Origin.
Yeah, a lot of mid
I mean,
tiers.
if you gave me this list of teams a year ago, I'd be like, damn, this is going to be one good tournament. But now I'm looking at this and just be like,
Teams rise and fall, and
China's
we're
going
on
to
the
win
fall.
probably.
All right. So another week of fantasy happened. Let's talk about it. The biggest winner this week was again Jensen, the mid laner for Cloud9, putting up 64.48 points. And the biggest loser, I think, for another week in a row was Big with 4.94. I know he's been at the bottom a lot. Echo Fox, especially when they're struggling, he doesn't perform too well. So, who was your fantasy winner this week, Alex?
Well, not so much a winner, but definitely a big surprise for me was Huni and his really low score. He scored 7 points in his first game where he was bullied the crap out of by CLG, and you know, it's 7 points. It's going to hold you down, but this was a big surprise for me because Huni is usually in the top of scorers out of all overall. Like, he's usually within the top 10 consistently each week. This time he's like down in the middle of the pack with almost exactly 30 points. So, you know, even his second game wasn't able to carry him up into the normal, you know, ranges of where he is.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting because last week he got the week before he got the pentakill, and then he goes from a pentakill to his first loss in almost a year. That's a very big stretch in, I guess, points in terms of like fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, and who's your fantasy choice from this past week?
My fantasy esports pick is all of Cloud9. Maybe not balls, but Cloud9 did really well this week, even though they only went 1-1. Due to their game against Dignitas, we see Jensen is the highest points mid laner, Sneaky is the highest points AD carry, and then we had Rush as the second highest jungler, and then High is the second highest support. So it's really impressive that a team can come off a 1-1 week and then put up these crazy, at least breaking it down role by role, fantasy points. I think I'm going to probably just end up attributing this to their insane game against Dignitas. They went 24, 4, and 47. So that's just points everywhere, just massive points, especially with that Pantheon pick from Balls. It was nuts. And that was just impressive to me that a team can rank so highly even though they lost games.
Yeah. All right. So since there is no fantasy next week, we don't really need to talk about who to play because no one's playing. So we will talk about IEM this upcoming week. So the schedule starts Friday, March 4th, 12 p.m. Central European time. So everyone out on the East Coast, that's going to be at 6 a.m. And then out on the West Coast is going to be 3 a.m. So if you want to be early enough to watch that, we're in Katowice. The games that we have.
I will be asleep.
Yeah, so Friday,
I hope
Group
you have some
A,
VODs.
Yeah. So Friday, Group A will play, which are TSM, Royal Never Give Up, Origin, and Escape Ever. They will be doing a round-robin style, and to decide which top 2 teams end up going up towards the semifinals, and then obviously the finals. Saturday, Group B will be doing the exact same thing. It's SKT, CLG, Xiaogu, and Fnatic. We will obviously see those games and how they play out. And then on Sunday, March the 6th, we will see the first set of semifinal games, the second set, and then the finals to figure out who's our IEM champion. So, guys, what matches are you guys really excited for this week?
Well, I'm excited for the eventual Xiaogu versus Royal Never Give Up in the finals.
Yeah.
I am. It's a very lackluster team lineup this year for IEM Katowice.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a big problem with how spaced out these IEM tournaments are, and I think that's because of, you know, Riot's regular season and stuff like that. It's hard to find like a spot for this tournament. You know, the reason TSM is here and not Immortals is because TSM is defending champions from what was the tournament before this one? What was the one they won? San Jose? Cologne?
No. Yeah, it was Cologne. It was Cologne, I believe.
Yeah.
I am Cologne.
They won in Cologne, and that's why they're here. And I believe CLG won in San Jose, or they just put up a good showing, and that's why they're back.
Origin won in San Jose.
Yeah.
And Fnatic and CLG were invited because they are the defending champions from the LCS.
Yeah,
Yes.
from the end of last season. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
you know, but yeah, yeah. So like the best teams to show up from this tournament are from China. So you know, we'll probably see those two in the finals. I'm still looking forward to watching to CLG versus SKT because I feel CLG still has a pretty good show. Still has a pretty good, you know. They're coming off a win. They've been doing they've been doing an upswing in terms of their win rate. So who knows?
All right, Owen, who are you watching?
I'm keeping an eye on Ever. I know they're not even an LCK team, and I was kind of talking down on them earlier, but they did win Cologne. Granted, they lost two of their players. I think their mid laner and their AD carry have left. It's kind of risky to bet anything on them. They were kind of invited to the tournament 3 months ago, and League of Legends is very fast-paced, especially with team compositions. So that's changed a lot. They could. That's the thing. They're like a wild card. You have no idea what's going to happen. They could be the next Taipei Assassins. Come out of nowhere, or they could just crash and burn in the first couple rounds. So I wouldn't honestly expect much out of the West at this tournament as far as winning it is concerned. I mean, CLG is really good. TSM's okay. TSM's pretty good too. But as far as their strategies going up against the Korean and the Chinese teams who are better funded, and I don't want to say more dedicated because that's not necessarily true, but they have stronger competition in those regions and they have higher budgets for their teams. Yeah. So the finals I'm definitely saying is QG versus who's the other? Royal Never. I don't want to say RNG because that's Renegade's old acronym, but Royal Never Give Up is the more likely matchup for those finals. SKT is kind of faltering here. We don't really know what's going to happen. I think they're going to do well against the European and the NA teams, but as far as against China is concerned, I wouldn't necessarily be counting on them to win here. And another thing that you should definitely keep into account is that we don't really know how Europe's in here. That region has been really strange, and the European teams might actually be able to beat out CLG and TSM, even though they are more middle of the pack.
Yeah, we will have to see. Again, those matches start Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12 p.m. Central European time. That's not Eastern Standard. That's not West Coast time. So if you are on the East, that is 6 a.m., 6 in the morning. And if you are on the West Coast, that's going to be 3 in the morning.
You got your alarm set, America.
Yeah. And that will do it for today. I'd like to thank Alex and Owen for joining us this evening. If you guys liked our show, be sure to follow us on Twitch. You can find us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. All those links are down below. Please go check those out. And from all of us here at EGF, I'd like to thank you all for watching. You can join us next week. We will most likely be discussing the results of IEM and what this could mean for the Western teams. And I am Jared Warnke. I will see you guys next week.